All right, welcome back to Become a Calm Mama. Today, I am lucky enough to talk with Victoria Yates, and we're going to talk today about really teaching your children how to love their body and how to have a great relationship with food and with their body. And we're going to get into some of the challenges of that and what some of the fears that we have as parents, and then get into some really good strategies. So, welcome, Victoria. Just introduce yourself, and we're going to get into it. Yeah.
Thanks for having me back on. So fun.
That's right. Yes, yes.
So I'm Victoria Yates. I am an intuitive eating and body image coach for women. And a little bit about my background. So I formerly was a nurse. I practiced as a nurse for about 5 years. I worked in labor and delivery and then pediatrics. So I do have actually a lot of, even though I work with adult women now, I work with a lot of moms and such, but I do have a lot of background in pediatric area too and children. But yeah, so I now work as I said, an intuitive eating and body image coach, and I've been doing this for the last 8 years. So yeah.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And the last time you were on was last year in January. This episode's coming out in January. And we talked a lot about healing our relationship as women, really healing our relationship with our bodies, and talked through sort of what self-love looks like and how we can move towards body acceptance and self-love at that deep level. And so we're going to kind of, that's going to be a little bit part of this conversation, but really about creating a family dynamic that is body positive. And it's not necessarily fat positive, thin positive. We're just talking about bodies and how they are. And so we're going to help parents, hopefully, find some room within themselves to accept and trust their children's body exactly as it is right now, and however it's supposed to be. So let me frame this up for us really quickly before we get into some of the details. My vision as a parenting coach is to heal the next generation in advance. And I believe that we do that through how we are raised by our parents now. And I think about how many of us get to adulthood and we have to heal all these childhood wounds. And we have to heal from trauma and insecurities and all of the pain. And so my vision is, how do we prevent the pain? Or how do we give our kids the tools they need now so that they don't have to unravel their entire childhood and their experience growing up? And one of the things that we are all healing from, a lot of us as women, is our relationship with our bodies and our relationship with food. And so my goal or my hope by this conversation is that maybe we can do some work with moms so that they don't create that pain for their kids. Let's talk a little bit about body positivity. I think I would love for you to define that, because I think it's misunderstood.
Yeah. There's been a lot of pushback recently on the term body positive. Culture says that like one body size equals health. And so that is like so ingrained in our thinking as a whole, as a culture, that when we say body positive, they immediately think that, okay, we're saying that health doesn't matter anymore. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. And so when I think about like body positive, it's really saying that there are no good or bad bodies, like morally good or bad bodies, that everyone has a different body. And that's a good thing. That's just like part of human diversity. And we don't all have to be one specific size. We're not made or created to be one specific size. And there's a lot of factors that go into our weight and the size that we are. Some things are, we do have some control of. This is something that I share often with my clients, who do come to me and they're like, I, want to change my body. I always remind them there are some things that we do have some control over, like, how we eat and movement. And, I look at like stress and sleep, but then there's a large component, a large percentage of that goes into our body size that is out of our control, specifically
Mhm.
genetics.
Mhm.
Like I can't name the exact percentage, but it is like over half, like over 50% of just like what goes into and factors into the size of our body is genetic.
Mhm.
And that alone, it's like when we
Let
think
me
about
say
the
something.
body,
Let me
yeah,
have
yeah,
something just add to that because we're both referencing a little bit of this book that I read that blew my mind, Fat Talk, which is by Virginia Soul Smith. It's Parenting in the Age of Diet Culture. And I think it was in that book that she said, we don't go to somebody like a health coach or something and say, can you change the size of my feet?
right. Yeah.
Like there's
Or can
no
you make me
place.
taller?
Yes, make me taller. That's what I was thinking. Because my son, he's like desperately wanting to be taller, and he is
Yeah.
still in puberty, and so he can still be growing. And so that's he has like hope, right, for that. But then there's a
Right.
certain point where you are the size you are, and you have to accept like my height is my height, right? And
Yep.
but then we don't always think we can control weight to such a
Yes.
different degree. And that's sort of what you're saying is like there are some things that are just a frame, like how big your bones are or how
Mhm.
wide your shoulders are. Like your bones are your bones.
Yeah.
And your the way your muscles distributed and that kind of thing. So
And
yeah.
like even like as far as like how your body stores fat
Mm-hmm.
is genetic. A large
Mm-hmm.
component of that is like genetic. So there's
Yes.
like, yeah, I love that you brought that up because it's so true. Like social media, I see it like all the time. It's like these messages of like, just do follow this plan and then
Mm-hmm.
you'll lose this weight.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a it's just so false. Like maybe you do, but then your body will like bring you back up to the
Yeah.
weight that it's meant to be. We're given this message that we have 100% control over our bodies, and that's not true. So yeah, body positive is saying, this is the body that I was given. And just like I accept my height or my shoe size, like I accept my body. And I think it's also, I think there's another side to it too that's important to talk about. I think there's also kind of the toxic body positivity kind of message that says essentially you have to feel amazing about your body and every part of your body in order to be quote body positive. And for a lot of my clients, that doesn't feel possible or like something that they could achieve. And I always remind them like it doesn't have to be like feeling or getting to a place where you are like accepting of your body doesn't have to mean that you love every part of your body, but it's saying, okay, this is my body. And it's like
Mhm.
just being more neutral about it. And
Yeah.
and so I think that that's also important to mention as
It's
well.
a journey, don't you think? It's like
Absolutely.
I call this podcast Become a Calm Mama because I really believe that we are all in a process, in a journey, on a path towards greater and greater levels of wholeness. And that means greater levels of self-love and self-compassion and self-acceptance. And so, yeah, I might learn to feel positive or neutral, I guess, about some parts of my body. And then there's other things that are still frustrating to me, especially as I age. I have new things to care about that I didn't care about 10 years ago. And I have new levels of learning how to love my this corporeal being, this thing that I care around, this face, this smile, these eyes, this hair, this whatever. I'm learning all the time how to love it
Yeah.
and how to be grateful for it.
Yeah. I mean, because like bodies, I think this is another thing we're taught in culture, or we're kind of the message we get is that bodies should never change. You should always have the same body. Our kids, even like with our kids, like they should just like, have this type of body. But the truth is, like, our bodies always are changing,
Yeah.
I just turned 30 this past year, and I feel like my body's going through another change like over this past year. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, here we go. So
Yeah.
then it was like, I had to go back to like, all righty, there were days I was like, I don't feel like loving this, I'm not loving this. But it's something that you, like you said, it's always a journey. It's something that you're always, working towards. And it's kind of like a relationship with a person, even. It's
Mm.
they're changing, you're getting to know them, you're always, or with your spouse, you're always learning more about your spouse. Um
And your kids are young, but you're going to find as they get older, they're going to change so much. I mean, they have changed a ton, but they're still little. But it's like you are in a constant relationship with them and learning how to love them deeper and know them deeper and unconditionally accept them when at times their behavior is frustrating or challenging or parts of their personality show up and you're like, eek, not sure I
yeah.
like that part. And so yeah, I love thinking of it as a relationship. So we're talking about body positivity and we're going to get into some strategies, but body positivity came about because there is an anti-fat bias in society. There is thin privilege, and that might be hard for some of you to hear, but stereotypes and bias exist. And as parents, we are talking about body bias and how we know that if you are fat, right, or considered in a body that isn't as accepted in society, that you're at risk of being made fun of being the butt of a joke, of being passed up. There's a lot of actual indication that if you are fat, that word fat is being owned by people. It's not a derogatory term. It's really like an identifier, like white or, I
Or
have
tall or thin or
tall, thin.
small.
Yeah. Fat, thin. Yes, exactly. Tall, short, right? An identifier. But that there's a lot of stigma and stigmatization of larger bodies. And I think as parents, we see that and we get afraid. So we
Mm,
wanted to, you and I, just name that the society is built towards thinness. It has a value. It says thin is better. And as a parent, then we think, oh, I better do everything I can to make sure my kid is safe. And
mhm.
that means being in a thin body. And that might get twisted up in our head because then we're like, I've got to put my kid on a diet. I've got to make sure they move. I've got to make sure they wear these certain clothing. And what we're saying is, first, we just want to identify that that is a reality.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you want to speak on it at all.
Yeah, I find that for a lot of people, like when they first hear a message like this, diet culture, thin privilege, it's like now I bet people listening will go into the world and start to see things like see diet culture. Like I remember seeing a LaCroix can that says like 0 calories, zero sugar equals innocent. And it's like little things like that, right? It's like it's just your LaCroix, but it's like those kinds of messages, like essentially it's saying like this is a good drink and then others are bad, right?
And
Like
it's a good drink because it's 0 calories. It's a
exactly.
good drink because it won't make you fat. You're
Exactly. Yes.
innocent. So
It's
we
all
the thing
yep.
about our bodies is we use them to decide what's beautiful. Thin is beautiful. We decide what's healthy. Thin is healthy. We decide what's moral. Thin is moral. And so when we see a non-thin body, a fat body, it's easy to say that's not beautiful, that's not healthy, and that's not moral. Like they're
Yeah.
not they're not innocent,
Doing something wrong.
doing
And
something wrong.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's I find that a lot with my clients is like they're doing all the things and it's so hard for them to see like they're doing enough and they're doing it all right. Like there's nothing wrong. Like a lot of my work is like helping them just to see like you're doing enough. You're doing a good job.
Well, the
Um,
goal, right? Like when we think about what is our goal, is it health or weight loss?
right.
Is it
Yep.
health or changing our body size? Because we conflate the two and we think that health means small body. That's not necessarily true. My mom, before she died, she had lost over 2 years. She died, she was 90 pounds. And when
Right.
she got sick, she was 145. So she lost 55 pounds. She was a skin and bones. That is
Mhm.
unhealthy. It's sick. She's sick. I've had friends who've had dietary issues or like Crohn's and things like that that make them very ill, but they get skinny. And then
Yeah.
everyone is like, "Oh my God, what diet are you on?" And they're like, "I'm on chronic diarrhea. That's what I'm on."
Mhm. Absolutely.
And that's
Yeah.
not health. And then there's other bodies that are the size they're meant to be and they're fine. They can move, they have cardiovascular health, they're able to hike up hills and do the things they want to do. Society's not always built for those bodies, and that's not fair, right? Like, I don't know, I can't think of an example of like maybe skiing or
Clothing
something.
size or
Clothing size, yeah, right. But when we as parents are, if our job, right, is to raise healthy children, what we're offering is that we don't need to conflate weight and body size with health.
yeah. Well, it's hard too when that has been the message, not only from the media and
Mm-hmm.
just like culturally, like out in the world, but also like from people we trust regarding like our health and like specifically talking about like healthcare providers, doctors, nurses. They are just as much in diet culture as everyone else. And
Yeah.
I think that also makes it hard to hear your doctor say, "Oh, your daughter needs to lose weight." Um,
Mm-hmm. It can be such a different conversation where it's like, I have no reason to worry about my child's size, but I would love to talk about their actual like health. Like if my kid is having trouble keeping up, like jumping on a trampoline or whatever, then we're going to have different conversations about movement or, bringing in maybe more vegetables. They're seeing what they're willing to eat, more fiber, whatever, right? There are foods that support us more. Like in some of my coaching, I sometimes call them like power and pleasure food, which broccoli can be pleasurable. So we don't need to put that distinction, but for kids to go like, some foods are power foods. We eat them for our muscles and for our blood and our bones, and we want to give that mission to them. But what our hope is here is that we're not saying you can't be this big. That's what we're talking about.
that's not the driver for getting them for serving the broccoli.
Yes, right. Like I'm going to get my kid thinner. And this I start to see in my work. Sometimes 9 or 10, but mostly I start to see it in puberty when my clients' kids get to puberty. I'm not a nurse, I'm not a doctor. Anecdotally, though, kids seem to put on some weight before they
Absolutely.
lean out, before they grow taller. It's almost like when
Absolutely.
they're babies or like toddlers and they have those big chubs and round bellies and it's like, you know, we always joke like the organs are bigger than the body, right? Like whatever, but they're putting on all that weight because they're going to lean out at 3 and 4. They're going to grow a bunch of height. And
Yes.
so their bodies aren't done in puberty. They're just beginning to get hips and, to get muscles and to get, all of these things. So it starts to be scary for parents. And then that's really where I see the diet culture sneak in, the worry about my kid's going to be fat. And
Yep.
it's like, okay, is that bad? Like, what if that's okay?
Yep.
And what's your actual concern? Health or fitting in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it is helpful to have that perspective because and I know like almost every single one of my like adult clients, right? Like thinks back to when they first started dieting and it was always in their teenage years. And often it's going with their mom to a Weight Watchers meeting or
Mm-hmm.
doing a diet or plan with their mom because there's been a lot of hurt. The moms listening, like they probably saw their moms going on diet and
Mm-hmm.
pick that up. And then it's very much generational. But yeah, to be able to just see like, yeah, this is a normal like body, like we said before, like body change is normal. It's
Mm-hmm.
normal, like especially for kids in puberty time, like it's totally normal.
Yeah, I think people need
And
to hear that. Yeah. Like, cause like my son has acne and there's treatment for it and things like that. But I'm not like, oh my God, he's gonna be ruined.
you have acne forever.
Yeah. Or like I'm just like, oh, he's a teenager. You have more acne because your hormones are trying to find balance. And like it makes sense. I don't freak out. I mean, I'm gonna help him because he doesn't like it and he wants treatments and things like that. And like, whatever, go to the dermatologist, all the things. But if I'm like, uh-oh, if kids aren't going to like you with those big fat zits, you're going to be hurt. You're going to, I don't want to pass on the self-consciousness or the insecurity. I actually want to be the person who's like, yeah, you own it.
Mm,
Own your body, own your face, own your, your pimples, own your brown hair, your blonde hair, or your height. Be friends with yourself. But I have to go inside of myself and make sure I'm okay, looking at like, how are they stacking up and how is that reflection on me? Are people going to think I'm not a good mom because my kid has blankety blank?
mm, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think here, like the reality is like maybe some people do, but like I think it's important to know, no, I'm doing a good job. Like that's where that like as a mom, that self-assurance, that self-concept, that self-confidence, like we
Mm-hmm.
have to really like lean into that
Yeah, because
because
people are going to judge.
people might judge and we
Yeah.
can't control that, right? Like they might judge our kids. They might
Yeah, they
judge,
might be like, "What? Look at
they
this
might judge
little
us.
chubby kid. Mom must be just letting them drink Coke and soda and whatever, and eat sugar all the time." Or when you have a kid in a larger body and they are eating cake, and you're thinking like everyone thinks that's all I let them eat is cake. And even moms might even say like, "Wow, second piece of cake." And there's so much comparison and judgment, and we want to acknowledge and honor that that's true and hard. And my goal as a parent is to deliver to adulthood the most whole human that I can possibly push out there. And that means whole on the inside and on the outside. And that it's like, yeah, people are going to say what they're going to say. And how do we own like their body's the exact right size? I'm
Yeah.
not worried.
Yeah.
They're learning. They're in a relationship with their body and food. They're gonna figure it out. Yeah.
I'm wondering if some people listening though, because they're like I said before, it's so ingrained in our brains that body size equals health. So we said before, like I think if you for someone who is listening and who maybe you're thinking like, oh yeah, I've like put my kid on a diet or
Mm-hmm.
I've like
Said
said
snide remarks, or not
said
even not
things to
snide,
my
but
kid.
maybe like subtle, like, you sure
Yeah.
you're gonna have a second piece of cake or
Yeah.
whatever? Yeah.
It's coming. I don't want you to feel judged or this is coming from so much compassion because there's such a strong message out, like I said already, from healthcare providers and like the people we trust that
Mm-hmm.
and everyone else that
Yeah.
your weight equals your health, your kids' weight equals their health. And so I just want to say that like you're doing the best that you have known how up
Mm-hmm.
until this point. What I would love for people to hear though is that there's so much research out there now. And over the last, I don't know how many years that has come out to say that no, actually we're wrong, that weight does not equal health.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a kind of another, I don't like the word movement,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Well,
but
I
like
think it's
another,
helpful that there's concepts and things and
yeah,
people
there's
pushing
another
out new
concept
ideas. Yeah.
there's another concept that kind of goes along with the body positive called health at every size. I don't know if you've heard of that. But basically what that which there's a book called Health at Every Size that I actually really like if you want like a dense, like very like looking at the research that essentially says, it's not our weight that equals our health. It's the things that we're doing. It's the habits that we have that we're partaking in. It's the, eating balanced. And when I say balanced, it's not like it's eating intuitively. It's
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah. It's not
listening to your
restricting
body.
or
Yeah.
it's not
And it's
restricting or having a plan. It's really about eating from all the macronutrients and keeping a balance in your diet
and
and that.
also
Yeah.
enjoying the pleasure, like you talked
Yeah.
about, and then, moving your body regularly and sleeping well and like
Mm-hmm.
managing your stress and all of that. Those are all
Mm-hmm.
the things that's what impacts health. The
Mm-hmm.
weight is just a side, like
It
it
can be an
doesn't,
indication that maybe
it
some of your habits aren't serving your health, but it's not the
sometimes.
only. Yeah, it doesn't, it can be, but it doesn't
Yep,
necessarily mean that. Yeah.
absolutely. Like we said already, like so many factors go into weight. So anyway, all that to say, like if you're kind of listening and you're like, I don't know, but like my kid, like I'm just worried about their health.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just acknowledge like that's the message that we've gotten for so many years, that weight equals health, but that's actually not the reality. That's not the truth. So what, I think you could look at is, instead of looking at changing the body size, we can look at like, what's your kid doing? Like, are we eating like a pretty well-balanced diet and meal? Like, are we encouraging that? Are we bringing that into the house? Are we, making foods that are going to nourish our bodies as a family? Are we moving? What's going on there? Looking at the habits versus like the weight, if that
Yeah.
makes
Yes. No, it's good because as a parenting coach, one of my jobs is to teach parents how to set limits,
sense.
how to have boundaries, you know, within compassion, within empathy, within understanding, right? Like, yes, of course you want to have another piece of candy. Like it's so delicious. And it's my job to keep your body safe. And I know that you've had enough sugar. So you're welcome to have one piece after dinner. You can set all sorts of boundaries. Um, and that isn't because we're setting those boundaries to make them skinny or to prevent them from getting fat. Like that's the difference, is like, no, I know their body. I am the expert ish, right? As a parent, you're at least a grown up. You know more than them. And so just like you would about sleep, you'd be like, you're not staying up till 11:30. You're four.
Right.
You're
Oh, I
not,
love that. I love
you're not.
that analogy. That makes it so much less like, it just, yeah, just so much less like, because food just feels hard sometimes. Even
Mhm.
for me, like with my toddlers, sometimes I'm like, I don't know. Like,
Well, because we don't know they're in their body. We're not in their belly,
right.
right? And like we're not in their body knowing if they're tired or not, but there is some sort of we have some
Intuition.
understanding of what
Yeah.
is like works best, I think as adults. And if you don't, you can reach out to Victoria and she'll help you figure out what is a balanced diet and what does that look like. And um, you know, what does it mean to intuitively eat? Like if you learn it as an adult, you're going to then trust your child's body and hunger in that too. And then work with me to set limits,
There
right?
we go.
Yeah. And so it's like, but I do want to reference, I did an episode, I don't remember, it was maybe in the summer, on picky eating. And it
Mhm.
really was about picky eating and peaceful dinners and like how to handle food. And I follow the Ellen Satter division of responsibility, which is the idea of I'm in charge as the parent of what is eaten, when it is eaten, and where it is eaten. And the child is in charge of how much. And so I'm not necessarily going to serve Oreo cookies and call that dinner because I'm in charge of what is being eaten. I'm not going to give them a giant snack at the middle of a meal and then expect them to eat a meal later. So that kind of philosophy is a helpful thing. We'll reference that in the show notes. Yeah.
Yeah, I use that as well. And it's
Mm-hmm.
so helpful, just like for myself, even with my kids, just,
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm going to provide this food and you get to decide how much you're going to eat and if you are going to eat it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I always have an option that's like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich if they just don't want to eat it.
Yeah, you do. You have a little rescue meal in there.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And that's, preference or whatever. We can do that or not. And when they're
Yep.
little, you want to manage hangriness, right? So
Right.
you want to like kind of make sure their bellies are full. But the big picture is that we are teaching our children how to have a relationship with food, how to have a relationship with their body. And in that, we have to we have to do our own work to make sure that we're a little bit clean, as we say in coaching, like that I'm clean on my perspective. And that might mean working with a coach, either a health coach for yourself, your own body positivity, or working with a parenting coach and saying, like, I want this, but I'm having my own blocks here on how to unravel my relationship with my body or my relationship with food so that I don't pass this on to my kids. Because we want to be cultivating this home environment that promotes like a healthy relationship with food and body. And that's not always, it's not always easy to do, but at least having it in our minds. So we're hoping from this podcast episode, right? That like parents are like walking away going, am I cultivating as much as I can a home environment that accepts, that promotes our kids' trust in their food and their hunger in their body. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I always tell moms is, who are asking me about their kids and like that question, like, how do I help them have a healthy relationship with food in their bodies? And my answer is always, it starts with you. You have to make sure. And it's not like sometimes that can feel like pressure, like, oh, so much responsibility. But it's like, it is just a natural repercussion for our kids to have that when they see it in us. I know, like, for myself, even like my mom never told me, like, said negative things about my body or, never told me to go on a diet. And yet I developed like an eating disorder. And I don't say like it's not to blame her, but I did see her talk negatively about her body a lot and her talk negatively about food and like talk about calories and go on diets. And so just like this is what kids do, right? They pick up, they're like little mirrors. They pick up the tendencies of the parent. I'm learning that in my own just like parenting toddlers. It's like
Uh-huh.
when I can stay like, calm
Calm. Mm-hmm.
my emotions, which is I know like this is why the work that you do, darling, is like so important. But like it's like that Taylor Swift song. It's like I know I'm the problem. I'm realizing I'm the problem. It's me.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm calm and when my emotions are regulated, like we have such a better day.
Yeah, it's so true.
Amazing.
Well, they're borrowing our nervous systems, they're borrowing our cognitive function. They don't have these abilities, right? They're immature. And so they're also borrowing our boundaries, our values, the things we care about, the things that are important. They're picking all that up. And
Even if we don't explicitly say it, they're just
yeah,
brilliant.
yes, there are. Well, it's because, I mean, ultimately, their need is to feel safe. And so they look to the adults around them and they get the clue of like, how do I feel safe? How do I work in this world? What what does it look like for me in order to be attached to my parent and be accepted and belonged in the society? So they're always looking for clues because they don't get it because they're little. And
Yeah.
they learn from us.
Mm.
Yeah, I remember a long time ago, I think it was before I had kids, one of my friends said to me, she has daughters, and she said, I made a commitment to never speak of my body in front of my kids.
Mhm.
And I think, she had like small fat body. If you get into the literature, those of you listening, like if you read some books, there's like small fat, large fat, like different ways to describe fatness. Um, but she just had made this commitment like, I'm going to not talk about this. I'm not going to berate myself. I'm not going to look in the mirror. I'm not going to talk about, my hips and butt and tummies and, all of that in front of my kids. And I kind of, I mean, I have boys and it's a little bit different. Not that boys don't develop disordered eating, but um, I did own that a little. I did own that too. I was like, I'm just not going to berate myself in front of my kids. And I've noticed sometimes my husband does it and talks about weight or talks about wanting to lose weight and these kinds of things. And every time he does it, I bristle. I'm like, oh no, we don't just because I can feel that they're looking like, oh, I should care about this. This is,
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, let's get into some practicals. Like what parents are listening, they're like, okay, I'm done with anti-fat. I'm good. I want to do it. I'm like, I want to raise my kids in self-acceptance and self-love. And they're all into it. They love everything we said. And now they're like, but how? That's what
Right.
they want. They're like, Victoria, tell us how.
Yeah.
So you kind of just give us some guidelines or some thoughts about that.
Yeah. Well, I think we've already talked a lot about just like how you talk about bodies and bodies in the world, your own body, your kid's body, like how you speak is going to be really important. So we've already talked about that. And then the other thing that I always remind parents and moms is that their kids are born intuitive eaters. Like when we look at a newborn baby, they are like the epitome of an intuitive eater. They cry and eat when they're hungry. They pull away and like no more, stop when they're full. And so what I want to just remind moms and dads listening right now is that your kid is like, that's their default. Their default is that they have that instinct to be an intuitive eater. And so I know this is really helpful for me, even like anytime, my kids are like, all right, I need another serving. I want another serving. Or even on the opposite, on days when they're like not eating a lot, reminding myself even that like, okay, like they know their bodies best. Cause even yes, I think like as far as parenting goes, we do create those boundaries, right? But ultimately, like they're the only ones living in their bodies. Like they're the ones that feel their bodies. And it's our job, I think, to help cultivate that for them, help them keep that intuition when it comes to food by encouraging them to connect with their bodies. I can share a couple ways that I do this with my kids.
Yeah,
Um,
please.
but or on the other hand, like maybe, your kids are older and they don't seem like super intuitive eaters, helping them to get that back. Because it's like a muscle. And this is what I tell my clients. It's like eating intuitively, it's like a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. And so the same is with our kids. When we're kind of like pressuring them to like eat in a certain way and eat this, don't eat that. Oh, you already had that, already had another serving, no more for you. It takes them away from that trust with their bodies. It takes them away from listening to their bodies. And so what we want to do is help them to either keep that by encouraging them to connect with their bodies when it comes to eating, or help them get that back. So a couple ways that we do this is it's actually turned into this really cute thing where I started to just, when my kids were, little and getting up from the table and running around, and I'd ask them, are you done? Is your belly full? And
Yeah.
by asking, is your belly full? It helps them to like connect with their bodies, right? So they're like thinking, is my belly full? I don't know, and it helps them to learn, okay, what does fullness in my belly feel like? And then encourages them to, have that like connection with their bodies. So, it's kind of cute now as like they'll run away and they'll be like, my belly's full, mom. Or we were in Costco the other day and it was like a little bit late. It was probably like 12 o'clock and my kids hadn't had lunch yet. And so they were a little bit hungry. And my daughter looks at me and she goes, Mom, my belly says it's hungry right now. And so it's just like teaching them to, I love like asking, with little kids, have them think about like, is my belly full? Is my belly hungry?
Mhm.
Asking them that question is going to help get them to connect with their body. So I
Yeah.
think with
I think
older,
that's why it's so helpful
yeah.
when we put the food out and we say like this is what is available to eat.
Mhm.
Take as much as you need.
Yeah.
And I think that parents get worried like they're going to eat all the rice, they're going to eat all the pasta, they're not going to eat any of the other things. And I, I don't know, like okay, maybe it's fine. Just trust them to feel full, get enough calories, get enough nutrients from that whatever you offered, and then move on. But yeah, trusting that they're going to take what they need
Yeah.
is huge. Mm-hmm.
And I've found as well with my kids that when they do, ask for another serving of potatoes or whatever, and I'm like, but you haven't eaten your veggies or your like, chicken yet, but I like give them the extra serving. It's been fascinating to see that they'll eat a little bit more of like, say, in this example, the potatoes, and then they'll go back to the other things. It's like, and then also I think a good reminder for people is, when it comes to kids and adults actually, is that balance doesn't have to be balance in that one meal. It can be balanced throughout the whole day and even throughout the whole week, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It's more important to have like not every meal, our kids don't have to like eat a perfect balance, quote unquote. Maybe they eat, just rice at a meal, and that's all they eat, or just mac and cheese. Maybe at our next snack, we give them something with some protein. Like, we can incorporate that balance throughout the whole day or even the whole week.
Mhm.
So I think people get hung up on that one meal.
Yeah.
Um,
Right. We just did maybe the next meal, we don't offer that type of food. Like,
maybe.
we're like, oh no, this snack is just apples and peanut butter instead of, apples, peanut butter, and crackers or whatever. And it's like, this meal is just veggies and chicken tonight. It's not, there's no potatoes. And that is we get to decide. I think empowering parents. I remember a long time ago, one of my first clients, she's like, all the kids want to do is eat bars, you know?
Yeah, that's my
And
kids.
yeah, yeah. And she's like, so they eat a bunch of bars after school and they're not hungry for dinner. And I said, well, just don't buy bars.
Mm,
And she's like, what? I was surprised that she had not considered that she didn't have to buy bars.
yeah.
And she was like, what do you mean? Just don't have them? And I was like, correct. Like,
Mm.
you are the adult, you have the money, you have the car, you know where the store is. Like,
Right.
you're the adult. You get to pick. I know it's sweet and it's easy and it's lovely, but if you see your kid off balance a bit, then you pull back and you don't necessarily need to always offer that preferred food. And that
Mm,
doesn't mean but my thinking, I think your thing too, is like the goal isn't make them skinny or
mm.
whatever. It's like, no, we're going to help them grow their palate, get better relationship with food, trust their hunger, all of those things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Or like what I do with the bar thing, because my kids, I mean, they want to have like 5 bars a day.
Yeah.
Is I'm like, no, like we're not gonna have a bar right now. You can have this, this, or this. And I name
Hmm.
3 different other snacks that they
Hmm.
can have. So that also like it empowers them to be able to like they get a choice. They like the choice. So I'm not
Hmm.
just like, no, you can't have that. You have to have this. I give them like
You're not
choice.
like, it's no bar, it's only liver.
Right.
You don't do that.
Um, and so they get the choice, but then I'm like, no, like we're not gonna have a third bar today.
Mhm. Yeah, it's okay to say no to our kids. It
Okay.
doesn't mean, like, on the opposite, it doesn't mean that we're giving them an eating disorder.
Yes.
Like, I think
Yes.
sometimes we're afraid if we restrict, then they're going to go over the top and overeat later. And, it's like, how do you create a healthy relationship with food and snacks and things like that? And that means having a good relationship yourself with food and snacks and, your own intuition, working with Victoria. And then just realizing that you are the adult. And so
Hmm.
you do know best and you can say no, you've already had a piece of cake. Um, Parents will often say, well, like they still go in the cupboard or they sneak food and say, okay, then book a consult with me and we can work through how to create better boundaries. But the 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 desire for your children to have snacks and to have sweets and things like that, it's fast calories, it's easy to digest, it's easy to use, they're growing a lot, they're going to be drawn to those foods. So we do
They're
need
fun.
to,
They're
yeah,
usually
they're
more fun.
fun, they're also colorful, they taste, come in a package a lot of times. Yeah. They're sweet, they're pretty. So yes, there's a lot of reasons that, sweets and snacks are attractive, and that we are going to be needing to set boundaries in order to give them opportunity to grow their
Mm,
relationship with other foods. So the
yeah.
limits doesn't create the disorder, it's the thoughts that we have about food and about their body and those kinds of things that really creates that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I'm thinking of like another thing that a lot of parents struggle with is like the sugar, like you were talking about hiding food. And
Mhm.
oftentimes, the hiding food and the like eating candy in secret or like wanting candy all the time usually comes from restriction, because that's
Mhm.
like the natural kind of backlash of like restriction is like wanting it even more. And so like for our kids, like I always, candy, like we have our Halloween candy in our cupboard, and have some Christmas, yummy peppermint bark that we just got from Costco that's delicious. And I let them, like I give them, I bring it out like
Mhm.
every once a day, every couple days, and I'm like, hey, here we go. Like this is like we normalize it. It's just like, hey,
Mhm.
here's some candy. Like
Yeah.
you can have a piece and not making it a big deal, not making it this off limits thing. Which again, it goes back to your own relationship with candy and sugar, can play a huge role. But, um, just kind of normalizing it, especially if you have a kid who's like really hung up on like needing the sugar all the time and wanting it and asking for it.
Yeah.
Um, I saw someone recommend on Instagram, and I love this, is as the parent, like bringing it out first before, like sometimes before your kid even asks, just like,
Hmm.
hey,
Yeah.
would you like
This
this?
is
Because that
our,
just
our
normalizes.
candy. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I love that. Yeah. And there could be reasons that kids crave more sugar than other, it's good to explore that and figure out what other emotional need might they be having been met. Maybe they have a lot of energy, or maybe they don't have a lot of energy in their body. It's good to explore what's going on without necessarily um, demonizing the desire or demonizing the food itself. I like how you said just normalizing it. You're like, this is our peppermint bark time. And it's like, yeah. I love that.
And then I have
Um,
some with them.
yeah,
Let
yum.
them
I'm
see.
like,
Like,
I'm gonna go to Costco right now and get some.
very good.
um, yeah, I love all of this. Any last thoughts that you have that you want to share that we didn't get to?
I think we pretty much covered it. I think I would just like reiterate like that, doing this work yourself as a parent is where it starts. And
Mhm.
um, I think it's easy to just, as moms, I find it's harder to like want to, I guess, like invest in ourselves, and easier to say like, oh, I need to like get help for my kid.
Get a dietitian or get a
Yes.
whatever, a coach or a tutor. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, we're much more likely to invest in our children than ourselves.
But like the value really comes from investing in yourself, either,
Mhm.
like for parenting stuff, or, with your relationship with food and your body. But yeah, it starts with you. And that can
Yeah.
be really empowering.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Thanks for the reminder. And this is like how I wanted to close, or what I wanted to say is that when we talked a lot about how the society is built around thin privilege and anti-fat bias, and that diets should always focus on weight loss and changing body sizes. And so when we buy into that system, when we buy into that distorted way of valuing humans, then we are perpetuating it and continuing that problem for our kids and for the entire generation. And so if we could decide to stop looking at our kids as the problem or their body as the problem, and instead look at the societal's values as the issue, the diet culture as the issue, and the anti-fat bias, that those are the problems, and naming it and opting out of it, that will free us from our need to subscribe to it, to like participate in it, and it frees our children from needing to participate in it. And if we can all do that as a whole generation raising kids, this next generation may not have to go through this level of pain. So
Yeah.
it's
Oof,
like it's yeah,
chills.
I know, right? It's
It's
important. Like
so
it's
fired up about
important on a
that.
small level, and it's important as a societal level. The
Absolutely.
work you're doing is important for sure. Healing women now, and then that they don't perpetuate this pain is our goal. Yeah. So thank you. Tell us how people can find you. Tell us how people can work with you. We'll also put all this in the show notes, but
Yeah. So my kind of hub for everything is my website. It's victoria-yates.com. And I also am on Instagram. I'm at non-diet_RN. And you can also listen to my podcast. I have a podcast. I put an episode out every week called the Redefining Health Podcast. So yeah. comes
Perfect
to mind.
title, because that's what we're doing, right? Redefining health, even in this conversation. Yeah.
Yep.
So I highly recommend working with Victoria. I learn a lot from you when I follow your Instagram and yeah, look at your freebies. What's your freebie right now? What do you help people with? Like if they
Yeah.
want a little taste of what it's like to work with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can get, I have a free masterclass right now. It's called Stop When You're Full. And I go into the 6 reasons why you are struggling to stop eating when you're full, why you are overeating, and then how to, depending on which one you struggle with, how to get better at being able to stop when you're full. That's a super common thing that my clients struggle with. So yeah, if that's
That's
something
amazing. Oh my
you can find
gosh.
that at my website, or you can find it. Maybe I'll share the link with you if you want.
Mhm.
You can
Yeah, for
see it
sure.
on my Instagram as well. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. Stop when you're full is so good. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks.
Wonderful. Hey, Mama, if you enjoyed this podcast episode, I want to encourage you to do 2 things. The first is go to my website, calmmamacoaching.com, and get a copy of the Stop Yelling cheat sheet. You'll get a step-by-step breakdown of the most important tool I teach, which is the pause break. And you'll also get 40 ideas to reset your body and balance your nervous system so you don't have to yell at your kids. You can get a copy of that again at my website, calmmamacoaching.com/stop yelling. The other thing I'd love for you to do is go to Apple Podcasts and rate and review this podcast so that other moms can discover empowering and helpful, practical parenting strategies, just like you did today. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. It means a lot to be in your ear every week and to support you on your parenting journey.